I want to bring in George Kokkas, and I got a tough question to ask you. You know, birthplace, the cradle of democracy, but at least the news we read here, you know, seems like a lot of autocratic behavior by the government there. Even though your prime minister is partly Californian essentially, and grew up here.
Half Greek, half American.
Yes. So what are you doing to what's the state of direct democracy there in Greece, and what are you doing in terms of constitutional reform, or trying to do?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for the question. Dear co-citizens of the world, I am here to express the answer to these questions at the views of the Greek direct democratic movement, the coalition that we call Direct Democratic Eurovision, the worldwide direct democracy movement. We have made this booklet about our thoughts, and all this try to find out other ways of implementation of direct democracy more than initiative and referenda that we of course absolutely accept. I think that people need to hear inclusive direct democratic program in order first to be real fans and supporters of the direct democracy point of view. Secondly, to fight together with us to change the world. And the most inclusive element that can persuade everybody that the real democracy, as is the Greek word, is possible, is a written constitution of citizens, not a constitution of politicians. Very clear, very realistic, and necessary for everybody now that the globalization brought a lot of modern financial and ethical problems. One of these problems is what happened in my country since May, 2 months before, when the International Monetary Fund is ruling our country. In fact, we don't have a government now, a Greek government, because of the loans that politicians made without asking the Greek people, and because of a lot of bad working in the decision making in my country the last years, we are in the terrible condition to lose our salaries, to lose our pensions, to have a lot of very hard measures against the poor people and not against the banks or the people that have stolen this money. So we began, answering to your question, in the Greek direct democratic movement, a kind of referendum using these papers. One is for the process of making a new constitutional convention of the people, and the other is what a kind of constitution of citizens could have. So here are exactly the method that we use here in this global forum. So everybody has to point out in different scales of interest in separate questions. So if he thinks, every Greek, that this is something very important or less important, or it should be done, or what we are doing now with the machines. So we began this process on June 20 during a celebration of direct democracy, which had to do also with remembering the ancient Greek way of thinking and of ancient democracy. The basic principles of such a constitution that we already began to prepare, as I said, trying to transform parliamentary democracy to a direct democratic political system inspired by the institutions of ancient Greek city-states that produced the all-known unforgettable civilization in all fields of sciences and arts of mankind are the following. First, there should be established in every direct democratic state a bicameral system constituted, one, of the House of Politicians, what we call the already existing parliament, with members elected through the partisan system that divides human societies, and secondly, the so-called Ecclesia of Demos, so the assembly of citizens, instead of any kind of senate that exists in some states or other noble institutions of the past. The members of this assembly of citizens should be come out of non-governmental organizations, scientific associations, what we call civil society, local activists, and randomly elected active citizens by lottery, having the role of social control and monitoring of the existing powers by criticism, approval of their decisions, proposals, and preparation of drafts of the referenda in the given state. Second, the structure of this state should be based on individual households, neighborhoods, and communities of people with same interests that cooperate with solidarity in the framework of contemporary city-states that are the basic financial and social units of the whole system. Third, all the main issues and problems of people should be solved in these city-states that recognize their assemblies of citizens as their major decision-making institutions. Fourth, all the rest of the levels of administration as regions, national states, federal states, and the whole ecumenical today's world exist in order to serve people and their needs under a bottom-up model ruled by the subsidiarity principle, meaning that every upper field of administration next to the city-state can be responsible for a subject only if the lower level of administration cannot solve the problem alone. For example, the pollution problems, great financial regulation, peace problems, etc. Fifth, the model of administrations of a direct democratic state can be called confederative communities. Basic direct democratic principles existing and functioning in these systems are also the rotation of all interested active citizens, the right to recall everybody, broad use of the election by lottery of people, planning cells of volunteer citizens in the local level, citizen juries working in a kind of reflection of the powers of the states. Of course, there are also other forms of direct democracy that such a constitution may have, including citizens-initiated referenda and initiatives as described from all the excellent speakers of this global forum.
Thank you.
One proposal only, something that
we're well over time here, and I've got to still get in Jim Wenderman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It's only a proposal that I want to express also for
If you can do it in 30 seconds, go right ahead.
And I finish with that. Thank you very much, Mr. President. So we could make out of this, as this forum here, an international independent committee for the implementation of a pure direct democratic constitution in a certain country of the world, based in such principles. We think that such a committee could come out of a resolution of our Congress. I want to continue this speech and cooperate with you on September 15th, the International Day of Democracy in Athens, where we continue with the worldwide direct democracy movement, a conference after 10 years of its existence when it established year 2000 in Greece. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for a fascinating proposal.
Democracy, or we should not call democracy oligarchy, I mean, is that they represent people. In fact, the politicians that are elected are not representing people. They are representing big companies or who gives them the money to be elected. So, if we make such an assembly, a citizens' assembly, from citizens who voluntarily participate without taking the big salaries that the politicians take, we have a better understanding of what representativism is. So the citizens can represent themselves better than the politicians, who mostly are simple clerks of the big interests.
In Denmark, I have a question on approval quorum. I understand that in the German Länder it's 50% of the electorate, and in Denmark we have 40% of the electorate, and that have led to no constitutional amendments for decades. On the other hand, we have Switzerland and we have California, where you only have a simple majority, and that led to perhaps too many amendments. I would like to hear the opinion of the panel. Can you agree on a percentage, and perhaps we could vote on it later on? Thank you.
Who wants to take that first? Maybe Adrian, Manfred, George?
It's very clear. I hate these thresholds anyway. It's not necessary. It's counterproductive because it will. If it's too high, then always the government tries to press down the discussion. Therefore, that's just opposite to a democratic process.
Yeah, I would like to focus exactly in the basic difference between representative democracy and democracy, real democracy. So in the representative we have to give a free order for 4 or 5 years to somebody to make for us whatever we will not do. The real democracy has to do with making policies. We the people make the policies. So that's the main difference. Whatever else should be solved in different countries according to the special specifications of each country. So it's a procedural question if it's 40 or 50%. It has to be solved by the people, from the people, for the people. But the major is that the people should make policies and give the order in certain policies to the politicians or to the people who enact the executive role. That's the most important thing. Thank you very much.
Would you thank me in joining this panel and thanking this panel? We're going to have a quick poll, and then we're going to move to workshop. That's the. There's so many interesting things are said here.